In this video, we're going to learn how to draw proportions of the face. So with proportions of the face, they are based on standard proportions, which nobody has all standard proportions, but these are just basic proportions. And then once you learn how to draw these, you can look at different people and see how they differ from these proportions and draw them to look more like themselves. So I'm going to start by drawing a circle. So I'm going to draw it similar to how I draw an ellipse, in that I'm not planting my hand on the paper. I'm using my whole arm. I'm going around and around until I get the size that I want. And this is going to be the top of my head. Then I'm going to make a mark for where I think the chin should go, right down here in the middle. And then I can use the edges of that sphere that I drew, that circle that I drew, and connect it to that line down at the bottom. And now I've got an oval. For me, this is easier than just drawing an oval. This is how I can draw an oval. You don't need this line anymore here. This was just helpful when drawing the oval. Throughout this video, you're going to want to stop and pause to catch up. Don't try to move along at the same pace as me. And if you miss something, stop, rewind, and go back and rewatch that. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to divide the face in half down the middle. This is going to help me keep everything symmetrical. So I'm making a little mark up here and a little mark down here where I think the middle of the head is and the middle of the chin is. And then I'm going to line my ruler up with those two marks and draw a straight line. After this, you want to divide the face in half this way. So don't depend on your judgment to be correct. You may get lucky. So if I make a mark right here, let's see if that's right before I draw it all the way across. I'm going to turn it this way and I'm going to measure how big is it from the top of the head to that mark, and it's just under 3 inches. So if I line this up with the top of the head and measure it, it's about 2 3/4 inches. Let's see how far it is on this side. Now it's more than 3 inches. So I know that this space is smaller than this space. So I need to move that line down just a little bit. So now it is 2 7/8 of an inch. And it's still a little bit more than 3. So I'm going to move it over one more line and then double check. If you'd rather do this mathematically, you can just measure from the top of your head to the bottom of your head, which for me would have been a lot easier because it's exactly 6 inches. And then I can just make a mark at 3. So you can either gradually move the mark where it ought to be, or you can just measure and divide by 2. So this is where the middle is. So now I'm going to draw a line all the way through the half of the face. So now I have my oval with a line down the middle of the face this way and a line across the middle of the face this way, dividing it in half. Now I can set up where everything else is going to go. The next thing that I'm going to do is divide this space in half. So again, you can take a guess and then just look and compare, or you can divide it by 2. So from here to here for me is 3 inches. Half of 3 inches is 1.5 inches. I'm going to make a mark there. And I'm going to draw another straight line. If you're in class right now, you may want to have other people around you check to make sure that this is correct. If you're at home, you may just have a friend check. So now you have 2 lines here. You've got between here and here, this is halfway. And between here and here, this is halfway. This is where your ears are going to go, between this line and this line. And it's going to seem like the forehead is huge, but we're going to put the hair here. So the forehead's only going to be about here, and then we'll put hair here somewhere. So it won't look as big later. So don't worry about your face looking like an alien right now. So the top of your ear is going to go here and touch that line. The bottom of your ear is going to go here and touch this line. So we're gonna make a shape that kind of looks like this over here and try to match it over here. We'll go over how to draw features later in a different video. For right now, we're gonna put maybe a couple of lines in just to make it look a little more ear-shaped, but we're not gonna get super detailed. Later, if you want your hair to come over these, you can. So at this point, we're gonna draw the eyes. And the standard proportion of the eyes are the space between the eyes is the same size as the space of each eye and the space beside the eye. So what I'm gonna do first is we wanna divide the space between here and here by 5. If you're lucky enough that this is exactly 5 inches, then it means you're gonna make a mark at each inch. Mine is not. Mine is 4.25 inches. If you wanted to do 4.25 divided by 5 and then measure each one out, you could definitely do that. I'm gonna show you another way to kind of eyeball it. So I'm gonna make a mark here and here, where I think the corners of my eye are gonna go, and then my nose will fit in between here. I'm gonna look at that space, and I'm gonna try to replicate that here. And now I'm gonna look to see, is this the same size as this? This is a little bit bigger, so I need to move both of these over to the right just a little bit. So I'm gonna erase those. I'm gonna move this one over here. Now I'm gonna look and see. And if I move this one over, I have to move this one over so that it matches symmetrically. So here and here, I know this is a lot to keep up with. Let's see if this space, now I'm gonna try to replicate that one. I'm gonna move it over. Okay, that looks like that's about the same size, and that's about the same size, so that's really close. So I've got 5 equal spaces all the way across. That's the goal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I drew all of these ovals kind of dark so that you could see them on the video. I'm gonna erase most of that so you don't have to draw them if you don't want to at all. And you definitely don't have to draw them as dark. So I'm gonna erase this one. And I'm gonna erase this one. So this is where your eyes are gonna go. So this space of each of your eyes is the same as the space between your eye and this space. That's why it's called the 5-eyed line. So this is where one eye is gonna go. This is where the other eye is gonna go. We're gonna go ahead and draw that. I don't like the shape that I have here, so I'm gonna erase it and restart. And as I do that, I'm gonna show you how to draw an eye. So when you draw an eye, I'm gonna start at the corner. You have a little bit of a corner of the eye showing here. And then the top of your eye kind of goes up and then comes back down sharply, like really close to this edge. So there's a slow slope and then it comes back down. This part of your eye doesn't come down as much. It's not as even. So a lot of people will draw these football eyes that are exactly the same on the top and the bottom. But really the top of your eye kind of goes up higher and the bottom of your eye is almost flat. It just comes down a little bit. And then you try to match that on the other side. It's always a lot easier to draw one side than it is on the other side, and it's pretty hard to get them symmetrical. So now you can draw the iris in the eye. The iris is the colored part of the eye. Usually, so if I'm drawing an eyeball, I'm gonna draw it down here. Your eyeball is a sphere. It's a big white sphere. And then you have the colored part of your eye, that's the iris. And then you have the pupil in the middle. So there's your eyeball. The way that your skin folds over it, if this is the corner of your eye, the skin folds over the top part of the iris. So the top of your iris is hidden underneath that fold of skin. The bottom of your eyelid usually comes just below the iris. So if you have somebody look straight at you and you look at them, a lot of times either this is barely touching the eyelid or there's a space of white underneath it. That's kind of how it fits over the eyeball. So when you're drawing the iris, don't just draw a circle that touches both sides, because that's not usually how it looks. Usually, it's covering up the top part of the iris, and then the bottom is just barely touching it. That tends to be more natural. And then when you draw your pupil, instead of drawing it all the way around, just draw it part of the way around, and that almost indicates that there's like a light. If you want to shade in your iris, you can. If you want to shade in some of the pupil, you can. That's up to you. And then draw the iris on the other eye. We're going to go ahead and add eyelashes now. So here's what not to do. Let's say this is your eye. Do not go like this. This is cartoon, that's a schema. That is a less realistic schema also. If you look at someone else's eyelashes, natural eyelashes, what they do is they come down and then they go up. And the ones that are on the side tend to go out more. And then the ones here start kind of going up, but they're not as long looking because they're coming towards you. So they look shorter, but it's just because they're coming towards you, not because they're actually shorter. So the ones here like this, you don't want them all to be the same length. If they're exactly the same length, they're gonna look less natural. You might want some of them to cross over some of the other ones too. And they have different amounts of space in between them. So you may have a bigger space here and a little space there. So when you're drawing your eyelashes, if you want them to be more feminine, you want to draw longer ones and thicker ones and maybe press harder with your pencil. If you want them to be more masculine, you may only draw like a few, and you may want to keep them thin. When you're finished with the eyes, we're going to start the nose. So I want you to lightly draw a line straight down from the edges of the corners of the eyes, the inside corners, until you hit that other line that you drew earlier. This is going to give us the outside edge of the nose. So the way that we're going to draw the nose, we're going to draw the septum first. And the septum is the part of the nose that's down in between here. It goes all the way, the cartilage goes all the way through the middle of your nose, and it comes down here. And then you have a nostril on either side, and then you have the side of your nostril like that. So that's basically the shape that we're going for. Everybody has a different shaped nose. Noses can vary a lot from person to person. So you may have a really wide septum, or you may have a really narrow septum. Those can vary a whole lot. I'm going to let you decide how you're going to draw it with your person, but the edge of the septum is going to come right here at this line. And it's almost like you're drawing a U, and then your U curves back down and makes an upside down U, or kind of like a rainbow. So you're making kind of this shape with your line. And then you're drawing the outside edges of the nostril touch this line that come from the corner of your eye. Once you have that, if you don't want that line anymore, you can erase it. Now we're going to draw the lips. So to get the lips in here, first we want to divide this space into thirds. I'm going to lightly draw lines and kind of eyeball it, and I'm looking to see, I want this space, and this space to be about the same. Then I'm also going to draw a line from the middle of the pupil straight down on each side. And that's going to be where the edge of the mouth stops. We're not going to do anything with this third, but this third is going to tell us where the line is between the two lips. So when you draw the top lip, we're going to start with the Cupid's bow. So a Cupid's bow is the part right up here, the very top in between your lips. It can be a V, it can be a U. So some people's Cupid bow looks like this, some is like stretched out, and I've seen some that just are non-existent. So you can choose what to do. I'm going to use a kind of a wide V for mine. And then I'm going to gradually slope down until I hit this line out here. That's going to seem really wide, and I'll explain why in a bit. So that's what you need for the top lip. Now we need the line in between the two lips. So we've got this line that was where that first third was. I'm going to go up a little bit and then back down, and I'm going to touch this line before I get here. And then you can decide how big your bottom lip is going to be. So lip sizes vary a lot too. Most people's top lip is smaller than their bottom lip. Some people's aren't though, and some people's are about the same size. All of these different variations are things that you're paying attention to when you're trying to make a drawing look like someone else. I'm going to put my bottom lip right here. I'm going to make that mark. And then I'm going to gradually bring this side up. Wherever this touches that top lip line, this is going to come out just a little bit past that. Now this line, where this line stops, that's where the skin fold stops. And that does seem kind of wide. I'm going to bring it in just a little bit. But you see how my skin fold line stops down here? If I had drawn my mouth so that they both stopped at the same place, it's going to look like a Mr. Potato Head mouth or a cartoon mouth. It's not as realistic if they stop right at the same place and there's no, that little lip fold helps so much to make it look more realistic. I don't need this line anymore. I don't need this line anymore. And if you want to erase the middle line now, you don't need that anymore because you've got everything that you need to stay symmetrical. Well, we do need some eyebrows. They look kind of funky without eyebrows, so let's do that. So eyebrows. Those vary a lot. You can choose to do eyebrows however you want. Generally, if you draw a line up from the edge of your nose here, that's where they should start. And you draw a line up through the edge of your nose to the corner of your eye and keep going, that's where they should stop. So stop and start. Do not just do this. Your eyebrow is made from little hairs. So, and they're different lengths. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go across. So I'm kind of making short little lines that are a little bit thicker in the middle and gradually get thinner as they come out here. You can choose to make the eyebrows thicker than that. You could give them a unibrow if you want to. Eyebrows vary a lot. When you're going this way, you're gonna do the opposite motion with these lines. Some of them will go straight up a little bit, then they'll go across. And you can decide how thick you want or thin you want them to be. Now I'm going to draw the neck. Generally the neck starts a little bit in from where the ears are, maybe even about right there. it's gonna slope in just a little bit and then gradually slope back out. In order to make shoulders, you're gonna draw the traps. So the trap muscles kind of go down here and then they just go out. And my shoulders don't fit on the paper, so they're just gonna stop there. If you wanted to add a shirt, you could choose where the neckline of the shirt's gonna go. And then now all you have left is hair. In my class, I encourage students to look up a hairstyle that they wanna do. If you need help recreating that, I can help you. If I'm gonna do my hairstyle, I generally have my hair parted over here. So the big thing to keep in mind with whatever hair you do, you're not gonna draw it on top of this. This is the top of the head, the hair comes down here. The reason the forehead looks so big right now is because we need to break it up with some of the hair. So I'm gonna erase that line. I'm gonna draw in where I think my part goes, right about there. And my hair kind of goes across my forehead right there. There's the top of it. And if I wanted to, I could go a little bit over my ear and then down here. If you want to do some shading in this, you can. Don't shade the face yet. We're going to shade that later. In fact, do not throw this drawing away when you finish, because we're going to use it in an exercise later when I teach you how to shade skin. And that way you won't have to redraw a whole nother face. But if you do want to shade the hair now, you can. When you're drawing the hair, you want to make sure that you are making marks going the direction that the hair is going. So if the hair is going this way, you're shading in that direction. If you want to personalize this by giving them piercings or tattoos, you're welcome to do that. You can go through and erase any lines, structure lines that you had, and make other lines darker. If you leave your structure lines, I'm okay with that too. You don't have to erase them. That's totally up to you. But just a reminder, the main things that I want you to know from proportions of the face. Your eyes are halfway between the top of your head and the bottom of your head. Your eyes are the same width as the space between your eyes and the space between on the edge of your eye to your ear. That's why it's called the five-eyed line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your nose generally stops about halfway between the eyes and the chin. And the middle of the lips generally stops a third of the way between the bottom of the nose and the chin. Your nostrils usually line up with the edge of the corner of your eyes, and the edge of that skin fold of your mouth usually lines up with your pupils. When you are drawing people in front of you or from life, always look to see how they vary. And that's how you're going to make it look more like them. You may look up at them and realize the edge of their nostril comes out a little bit wider than that corner of that eye. You may notice that the space in between their eyes is a little bit smaller than the size of their eye. Those types of things are going to be what you notice to draw a person to look like that person. That's called likeness. If the drawing has likeness, it means it looks like the person you were trying to draw.